Studio. I have two wonderful brothers who have joined me, and I'm going to shortly allow them to introduce themselves. And they are doing a project in Ethiopia, which they will talk to you about in more detail. And of course, what is really, really wonderful is when brothers from across the country and the city of Leicester, they connect with the Radio Ramadan, they call us and they tell us about a project. And here we don't turn anybody away. Everybody's welcome. You could be in a country across the globe, across the Atlantic, the Pacific, wherever you are. You call us, we'll talk about your project, because this is how we create awareness. If we don't create awareness, we're not going to get to know each other. We will not embrace each other at all. And this is what it's all about on Radio Ramadan. In 30 days, we have to do 12 months of work. So a call came in to me from one very good brother in the city, and he said, I have got a wonderful project that I'm working on, and I see a lot of people are waking up now. It must be the acne that has woken them up, and some of them must be upset with my description of acne, and they've woken up, and I'm sorry for that. I think I'm going to be in trouble when I leave the studio today. मार पड़ से आज सॉलिड नहीं मार पड़ से जारे बारे निकलू सैया स्टूडियो माथिन तो in another language कोट पहनी है तनु चंगी तरह. That's what's going to happen today. I'm not going to leave the studio today. I'm going to stay here all day, so I'll be better off. So we go back to the brothers. They're doing a project in Ethiopia. Now earlier on I was telling you about Ethiopia, where about it is in Africa, and imagine your city of Leicester, which is 380,000 people in Leicester, in the inner city, and in the outer city, in the county, we have about 600,000. So almost 1 million people. And you only have nine surgeons, orthopedic surgeons to take care of 1 million people. Now, in a hospital you go to in Leicester, you have obscene number of departments. You have a kidney department, you have an orthopedic department, you have ENT, you have so many departments. A person who goes to a hospital first time, he's lost, he's bewildered. There are so many floors, there are so many departments, there are people wandering about up and down, and you look at them and it's all news to you and bewilderment. But you go to a hospital in Ethiopia, and there'll be 9 medics there, and they are jumping from ENT to orthopedic to eye, and then they're rushing to deliver a baby. So look at the comparison. What a blessing we have living here in the West, where there's a specialist department for every part of your body, right? So when you need a dentist, you're not going to an optician. You go to these countries abroad, in a poor country like Ethiopia is a city. The cities may be different, but if you go out into the rural areas, the same person who's looking at your eyes is the same person who's going to do your teeth. So in my studio, in our studio, we have at Radio Ramadan 2 beautiful characters who have joined us, and I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. To my left is my brother.
Yeah. So I'm Al. I'm an orthopaedic consultant at the Leicester Royal Infirmary, and it's a pleasure to be here. Z, thank you very much for having us as your guest.
Well, this one's got some American blood in him. He's called me Z, not Z.
Oh, okay.
So he's obviously done his training in the USA. So welcome.
Z sounds much better than Z.
I think.
Surely.
What do you think? We'll have a vote on that.
Yeah,
we'll have a vote on
I think
that.
we should have a vote.
Now,
I'm sure people will say you need to be called Z.
Of course, that
trips off the tongue much better.
It's a good idea. We need to look into all these good opinions. To my right, I have.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Shakil. I'm one of the senior orthopaedic trainees working with Mr. Abraham in Leicester, and again came here to highlight the project that we essentially want to try and fund and receive your donations, inshallah.
Well, he's straight to the point, my brother Shakil here.
Yeah.
Now, you're going to explain to us a little bit about this project, yes?
Yeah, so it's a project that actually goes back almost 25 years. There's been a link between the hospitals in Leicester, the University of Leicester, with the university and the hospitals in a city called Gondar. Now, Gondar is about the seventh, eighth largest city in Ethiopia, so most people will have heard of Addis. Gondar is in the far north of Ethiopia, on the edge of the lake, on the edge of a lake called Lake Tana. So, Zed, you were born in Africa?
Uganda.
Yeah,
Uganda,
okay.
yeah.
So everyone with roots in Africa knows about the Nile.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Nile River. And you know that the Nile has a blue Nile and a white Nile. And the white Nile starts from Kenya. The blue Nile starts from Lake Tana in Ethiopia. And many of your listeners will know that the two rivers, they meet in a city called Khartoum in Sudan. So the Nile, the source of the Nile, Lake Tana, that's the geographical area roughly, and to the north of it, the mountainous part of Africa, Ethiopia, that our project is kind of based in.
So again, to remind our viewers, if you can also Google this town, it's a city or is it a town or a village?
Well, people, I guess we would call it a town, but actually it's a city. Its size is very similar to Leicester, so the population is about 3,500,000 population. So that's very similar to the city of Leicester, isn't it? But it has a very wide catchment area, and as you know from your time in Africa, there's a huge population that lives in rural settings in Africa. So even though Gondar is only 500,000 or thereabouts, it covers the catchment, the county, if you like, covers 7 million. So 7 million population, they come to Gondar for all their major health needs. So if you're injured, say you've fallen off a tree or you're hit by a boulder or some other kind of injury, sometimes you have to travel 3-4 days to get to the hospital in Gondar.
It's astonishing, sometimes I always keep reminding all our listeners, what is the disparity between Leicester or England and some of these areas that you are talking about. You've been there yourself physically?
Yeah, I mean, I've been there 4 times. I mean, you mentioned disparity, and disparity is a very good way to describe the difference. Because, for instance, the average healthcare spend on one person in the UK, on average, the NHS spends per head about £3,500 per head. I know, healthy people don't use that, so that goes to someone else, right? But the equivalent per head spend on healthcare in Ethiopia is $50 per year, per person. So that's, as I said earlier, that's like 10 packets of paracetamol. That's all that is given per head in a country like Ethiopia. So disparity is a very good word to describe the differences. The other difference, as you mentioned earlier, is the difference in the number of healthcare professionals. So in the UK, there is on average about 3 to 4 doctors per 1,000 population. So in Ethiopia, that figure would be 3 to 4 doctors per 100,000 population. So the difference is almost a factor of 100.
That is absolutely astonishing
comparison,
isn't it? Comparatively.
Yeah.
So if we always are going to keep comparing, you're just going to end up absolutely depressed.
We said the same word at the same time.
Yeah, and that's it. I was talking about the SFD earlier.
Yeah.
And now I've got 2 medics here in the room, and I have to tell everybody what is SFD. Is a stress-free day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very important medical term, obviously.
Yeah, stress-free day.
I was taught a lot about that at medical school, weren't you, Shaquille?
Always.
Yeah, and absolutely, when you go through these figures, it's not possible that you're going to have a stress-free day, because it's going to be in your mind all the time that $50. I mean, what is $50?
10 packs of paracetamol.
Yeah, about 2-3 doors away. If you're buying paracetamol or you're buying any cough medicines, there's nothing less than £5.
That's right.
So you buy 10 of them, you're at more than $50. You're at $75. So it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So a pack of 5 packs of paracetamol almost is $50.
Yeah.
And that is what we're talking about here, is what the spend is on one person in a country like Ethiopia.
Yeah, and so that budget covers everything. That budget covers healthcare for mothers having babies. It covers the spend on children getting illnesses. It covers the spend on young people having accident, and then obviously it covers older people as well who have similar conditions to what we have here, so cancer, heart disease, strokes, etc.
So when you go to Gondar, Gondar, in Ethiopia, and you do a comparison and you walk there and you compare with what you see at the Leicester Royal Infirmary, tell us, describe the feeling to me, when you see the conditions there.
Yeah. Do you know, when American people come to see what we have in Leicester, they're quite appalled as well. So I'm not saying Leicester is fantastic, but it's good enough, yeah? And it probably represents what we have in the rest of the UK. But yeah, clearly our standards of hygiene, our standards of cleanliness, our standards of infrastructure, and probably most importantly, the quality of training that we have in the UK, which is absolutely outstanding, is what comes to mind when I compare the two systems and the differences.
It's quite sad, isn't it, really, when you see these places in Africa and the conditions that they work in. Yeah. So how did you get involved with this project? Just run us through, the listeners. How did you, Leicester, a city like Leicester, how did they connect with this particular area in Africa? Because it's not really a well-known country.
So, I mean, as you know, there is a government commitment to overseas development, and we have overseas aid budgets and so on. And in the 1990s, that some of the budget was put aside for healthcare development. And there was a professor of pediatrics here in Leicester called Professor Silverman, who had the foresight and the interest to get involved with this development aid. And that's how it started. And after I was appointed a consultant in 2007, it was brought to my attention that there was this connection between Leicester and Gondar. And it intrigued me. And I was, like yourself, lived abroad, grew up abroad. And I was keen to get involved in an international project. So that's how.
Incidentally, where did you grow up?
So my parents are originally from South India, Kerala. I was born in East End of London, but I grew up in North India, in Punjab, between the ages of 2 and when I was 16. So yeah.
So you got a problem because you got to be neither speaking Malayalam, Tamil, or Punjabi.
I can speak Malayalam. I can speak Punjabi. I can speak, read and write Hindi. And I also claim to be able to communicate with all the Pakistanis in Leicester by able to speak Urdu. Because there's a bit of and I can speak a bit of English as well. So, basically most patients who come to my clinic are covered.
He's got me there. He's absolutely snookered me there because I met my match here today and he's beaten me because he speaks Malayalam.
I was learning German, and then after Brexit I thought, there's no point.
No point. He's smashed me.
So I think I might try Polish. That might be useful.
Well, we'll talk about that later because there's some things I'll tell you about Polish, but certainly that Malayalam, we call that the TikTok language. And when you learn that language, it's very difficult because it's a language that is from inside your throat, It's called the TikTok language,
It's like, someone said it's like putting stones in a tin and shaking the tin.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
Just give us a little sample of the Malayalam.
Ninde perandoa, which means what is your name?
You've got me there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You can always try Ada means boy. So if you want someone's attention, like your producer's attention, you can also say Ada.
Yeah. My producer's attention is more responsive when I say the word akni.
Is that right?
Yeah, he's jumping up.
So then you'd say Ninike akni vano, and then do you want akni?
This guy is going to take over.
Ninike akni vano.
Are you sure you're an orthopedic surgeon?
No, I probably am wasted. I probably should be doing something. I probably should be doing your job.
I think so. You do a better job than me. He's not doing so bad. I think we're definitely going to have you back here. So there's a message here saying the American system is private, so we are grateful for the NHS. Yes?
Yeah.
And of course, there's a good observation there that the American system is something we can't really compare with. To going back to Gondar, we are in a different zone completely.
Yeah.
So we have to adapt.
Yeah.
So how easy is it for you to adapt when you go there?
So I think the important thing to talk. Well, I mean, I guess we need to talk a little bit about the specifics of the healthcare challenges in Gondar. So, 50% of all admissions to a hospital in Ethiopia will be to do with injury. Yeah, and we can't really envisage that here in the UK. So, if you went back to post-war Britain, if you went back to life before the seatbelt legislation in the early 70s, if you went back to a time when health and safety in industry was very poor, then you would probably have some idea of what injuries, the havoc that injuries can create. Injuries generally happen to young men, may I say, because generally young men are at risk from road traffic accidents, from industrial injuries, and obviously to do with violence, so guns, etc. So the impact of injuries on health in Ethiopia cannot be understated, because generally speaking, it's economically viable, economically productive members of the public who are most affected. And when you have an injury, it could be a minor injury, but we're talking mainly in Ethiopia about very severe, life-threatening and limb-threatening injuries, which leave people with severe disability. So, for instance, if there is an argument between neighbours and it's settled with a AK-47, well, that leaves someone with a very damaged arm or a very damaged leg. And it takes very advanced treatment, it takes very advanced techniques to save that leg, to make that person walk again, work again, farm his land again, and be able to provide for his family. I don't know, does that create a picture for you?
Well, it's quite frightening, to be honest with you. Quite frightening.
Yeah.
So, if you explain to us, 22 years ago, you said that Leicester University started this initiative.
Yeah.
So, the university, did they then collaborate with the Royal Infirmary?
Yes, so there was an agreement between the Leicester Royal Infirmary and the University of Leicester, and they also created an agreement with the University of Gondar and the hospitals in Gondar, so that this is all formalized, this is all approved by, the higher management in all these institutions. It's a formal agreement. And so we have some great initiatives between Leicester and Gondar. For instance, I think the first kind of eye department in Ethiopia was set up by eye doctors from Leicester who went out there. The first psychiatry department in Ethiopia was set up by psychiatry experts and specialists who went from Leicester to Gondar. And I guess in the same kind of vein, we want to start a link between Gondar and Leicester when it comes to managing injuries.
Orthopaedic injuries, yeah?
So we're talking mainly fractures. As you well know, from your time in Uganda, road safety is very poor, isn't it, in most parts of Africa? And children often have to dodge traffic to get across the road. Children have to dodge traffic to get to school. People have to dodge traffic on a regular basis to get about their daily business. And that just creates a whole, issue of safety, and the potential for injury is huge. So that's the main issue. And then obviously, as I alluded to before, there is still some gun violence that's related to the civil war, etc., that happened in Ethiopia a couple of decades ago. And then there is the injuries that come from a developing economy. Construction, people fall, materials fall on them. People climb up ladders to construct. They haven't got the same levels of safety that they have here. So there is a huge burden of injury as a result of mainly of road traffic accidents, violence and construction.
Right, we covered the reasons and how somebody is injured, but explain to the listeners and to myself also as to how do you manage to put a team together. People have holidays, they want to spend with their families, they want to go to the south of France or Spain or anywhere in the world. How do they then take time out What makes them do this?
I know it's a strange thing to explain. Shakil, you have a theory? Well, I think generally, I think many healthcare professionals at the end of the day they are altruistic. Many of us chose to do medicine probably because we have a feeling about caring for our fellow man. I think some professionals they lose that feeling as they go through their training and they become more and more specialists. Some people lose that altruism, but I think that's why some of us give up our holidays and do this instead.
What's your take on that, Shakil?
No, I completely.
Why do you do it? What makes you do this?
Well, first of all, I haven't had the opportunity to go with Mr. Abraham and the team to Gondar as yet, but inshallah I will do in future. But I think Mr. Abraham hit the nail on the head. It is altruism. There's a lot of personal sacrifice that people give in order to study medicine. And again, this goes through all aspects of their life, and the opportunity to help other people, is essentially the reason why we became doctors. It's very different in the UK within the NHS, whereas if you go abroad to Ethiopia, to these places, the amount of disease and burden that you see there is completely different. And the opportunity that we have as healthcare professionals to help them and inshallah earn the reward for it is insane. So, that's the reason why, hopefully in future, I want to go with the project. And like a lot of my colleagues have also signed up for it. And one thing that Mr. Abraham hasn't really mentioned is that when most of the consultants go from Leicester, it's all self-funded. So they pay their own way, they pay for their flights, they pay for their hotels. So everything that they go there is completely voluntary. They don't get paid for this, but it's just a personal reward and the satisfaction you get of genuinely helping people who are far worse off than we can ever imagine.
And I think the only other thing to add to that is that it's not just doctors. So we have enthusiastic nurses, we have enthusiastic professionals who work in operating theatres, potentially physiotherapists. So it's not just medics; it's a wide range of professionals who are interested to help.
So here's a question for you from one of the listeners: Why was the area of Gondar chose by Leicester?
Yeah.
Earlier on, you mentioned
Yeah.
that it was an initiative set up by Leicester University. So why? What was the reason?
The explanation probably goes back into the early 1990s. There was a development grant funded by the UK government. So as you know, there's a Department of Overseas Development. They give out grants. There was a grant given out to help the University of Gondar specifically. So the University of Gondar will have applied for help and funding from the UK government, and then that would have been offered to many different institutions in the UK, and for some reason Leicester took up that challenge. And a lot of it, as I said, is down to the foresight of people in the 1990s, Professor Silverman and his colleagues from Leicester University, who decided that this was a project worth participating in.
So it's something that you just carried on from that period of time, from the early 1990s.
Absolutely. Not just me, and as I said, there are other people involved. So there are eye specialists who go out regularly from Leicester Royal Infirmary. There are psychiatrists from University Hospitals of Leicester who go out. And there are a few other personnel who do go out. For instance, obstetricians and gynecologists also go out. They have a team that goes out. And there are some GPs from this Leicestershire area who also go out. So we are part of a group of professionals. But specifically when it comes to injuries, then we are the people who feel we're the first people who've kind of participated in this project, specifically to do with injuries and the management of orthopaedic conditions.
Of course, here we have, do you have a website?
Yeah, so it's www.lgop.org, www.lgop.org. LGOP stands for Leicester Gondar Orthopaedic Partnership.
So it's lgop.org.
Yeah, and there is a link to a giving page, and as I said, our target was $200,000 and we are about $30,000 short. That is a $200,000 fund to buy equipment, and once we buy equipment, then we can package it, send it out there. We'll need to hire a container. We'll need to ship it out to a place called Djibouti, and then from Djibouti it will go to Gondar by train and then by truck. And then we have to go out. If we get the equipment out by September 2018, then we hope to install it in 2018. And the first clinical visit with the new equipment in place hopefully will go ahead by November 2018 this year. We have a medical supplier who has very kindly given us, essentially he's given us credit. He said, you just give me the money that you have, I will make sure that you have the equipment, you can pay me when you have the money. I mean, you just don't get that kind of funding from commercial companies nowadays, but that's very, very fortunately what we've benefited from.
So is there no equipment available from UK, like equipment which is slightly used or you're upgrading in England and you can use?
Well, sadly, Zed, if you came to the infirmary, you would see the amount of waste because of litigation and because of all kinds of different rules and regulations that exist. A lot of medical equipment and tablets are just chucked away because of safety and so on and so forth. But there are one or two companies, and we are working with a partner who does recycle surgical equipment. So Medical Aid International, they recycle medical equipment. So they buy, believe it or not, an operating theatre table. Yeah, I don't know. Have you had an operation ever, Zed?
No, not yet. But I've seen a few tables.
Yeah, okay. But if you see an operating theatre table costs £50,000 in the UK. Yeah, so that's the cost of funding a medical project. Fortunately, we are working with a partner who can recycle equipment, and that's how we are working with a much smaller budget than otherwise we would manage.
It's quite amazing. It's an eye-opener, really. Of course, we have one of our presenters here who's involved with the NHS, Mr. Zafar Haq. Maybe you've heard of him.
Yeah.
And he started his work with the NHS from taking old equipment from them, and he was sending it to Pakistan. He set up a few medical clinics there. And I'll definitely speak to him about your project.
We'll be interested,
I'm sure he will come up with some ideas. Because we're trying here now to create an awareness. So many good projects are happening all over the world from the city of Leicester.
Yeah.
And we're running a scheme here called Your City, Your Country.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if people don't know, if they don't know their city, they don't know wonderful characters like yourself who are doing so much work that people don't know about, awareness is very important to create. And inshallah, I hope that today we go to some lengths to create that awareness for yourselves and see what we can do from Radio Ramadan to generate some funding for you. And
that's very kind. Thank you very much for inviting us and for giving us the opportunity.
So there's a message here. Surely with injuries, the patient also needs water and food. And how do you overcome the environmental factor for the patient in Ethiopia to recover?
Oh God, that's a really amazing question from Zara, and I wish I had an answer for Zara, but the fact is that when they come to the hospital, they get free food and water. But yes, there's no doubt that it becomes very difficult for some people to recover fully because they haven't got the real, the good diet that they need. There are some very poorly nourished patients who get special diets when they come to a hospital in Ethiopia just to make them fit for surgery, fit for recovery, to help their rehabilitation. But you're absolutely right, Zara. I wish I had an answer to that. Sadly, many people in Ethiopia will not have the perfect recovery from the injury that we would expect because their nourishment is poor.
Of course, there's only so much you can do, right? And then the part of this nourishment is just another day for different sectors to be taken care of. So I think the listener is talking about aftercare also.
Sure.
And aftercare is also very important, isn't it?
There's a great story about a little... can I tell you a story? You like stories, Zed? There's a story about a little boy who was on a beach and he was throwing starfish. Starfish had been washed up by the ocean onto the beach. And he was there were thousands of starfish, and this little boy was throwing one starfish, second starfish, third starfish, and there were thousands. And a man came along and he said, "Why are you doing this? There are thousands of starfish. You're wasting your time." The little boy picked up one starfish, threw it in the ocean, and he said, "It made a difference for that one." So even if you do something small, you can't, I wish I could create a better situation for everyone to have food and water, but at least for someone, somewhere, some treatment makes a difference for them.
Of course, it's very interesting you said make a difference, because that's what our theme at the radio this month is all about, making a difference. The MAD theme that I mentioned earlier on, it's make a difference. Make a difference to somebody out there. Make a difference, and this is what we've been talking about. Every day, not a day goes by here where my producer does not shake his head, because I go on and on and on about make a difference. And that's what you're doing. You're making a difference, and that's why you and I are bonding so well together. Because
we'll have to meet up. We'll have to meet up for some makhni sometime,
or maybe a biryani. Yeah, Shakil, you going to join us?
Inshallah.
So what now? The way forward is we've briefly touched about this project, and we can be talking about here all day, and we now need to create awareness of this project throughout the rest of Ramadan, because at different times we have different audiences, and we talk about this, people will connect with us, they will ask us questions, and if we have to refer back to you, then please bear with us. We can connect with you via email or by WhatsApp, and you can answer the questions, because often people do ask questions afterwards.
We do have a Facebook page, LGOP, and we'll make sure that it's up and running, so if people wanted to make messages via Facebook, that'll be fine too.
Okay, what's your Facebook?
Leicester Gondar Orthopaedic Partnership, LGOP, Leicester Gondar Orthopaedic Partnership.
Okay, we'll check that out. My producer will do that straight away, because he's a bit savvy on there, on the techie stuff. So we'll do that. Now, your target is 200 and you attained 160,000.
Yeah.
Like that. So 40,000 is the deficit. Now, all these good initiatives, if the people of Leicester know about it, and it's an initiative delivered from the people of Leicester, that is what I like to see, is when it's a collective effort.
Yeah.
Because we all take ownership of the good work that we are intending to do. And even if somebody's donated £10, he's taken ownership. And this is what it's all about, is £5, £10, doesn't make a difference what you pay. You take an interest and take ownership in the project, and you help it grow. And this is how you build the foundations.
Yeah.
So each one of you who will get involved with this project and put some money towards it, then imagine what we can do collectively. Because there are many, many projects in Leicester currently.
Absolutely.
And the medics are doing an excellent job. There is Dr. Sanjeev, who is doing the Healing Hearts.
Yes.
He's running a great charity there, doing work all over the country. In many countries, he's going to Uganda, he's going to India, he's in Romania at the moment, and he's energized medics from all over the world.
Yes.
And
so this is very similar philosophy.
Yeah. So Shakil, in the community, to create awareness, not only with one community, the Muslim community, but with all communities, is a very, very good idea. So likewise, we shall discuss more as to create an awareness evening for people to come and spend a day or an evening to learn about your project. Is that something?
Yeah, definitely. That we would definitely make time and effort, and we would be there
with the representation from the Leicester University.
Yeah.
So Shakil, is that something we should pick up on?
Yeah, most definitely. I think Alhamdulillah, thank you for giving us this platform to speak here. But as you said, between cultures and religions, it's really important that we all unite for an ultimate goal. And over here, Alhamdulillah, I know in Ethiopia, in Gondar, there is a significant Muslim population there as well. 10% of the people there are Muslims. Predominant religion there is Christianity, but this is a form of sadaqah, helping other people, the treatment that we offer, and the money that you give, the money that we're raising, as well as trying to rejuvenate the services. I mean, if you go onto our website, you'll have a look at the quality of the orthopedic theatre there, and it's quite poor. It looks very filthy, and inshallah, what we want to create is a nice, clean, healthy department, that minimises the risk of infections for patients who have these nasty injuries. And not only are we going to be there to create, raising money to create this orthopedic department, orthopedic theatre, but inshallah, regularly every year, or is it twice or three times a year, Mr. Abraham, where people from Leicester, medics, non-medics, will actually go there to visit, to help train the people there, and also provide our expertise to the population there as well. So it's an ongoing plan that we have, inshallah, for Gondar.
Does the hospital have any budget allocated to these projects?
The hospitals in the UK, so Leicester, no, they don't. But what they do very kindly is they give you time off, so paid time. So if you like, yes, they are in a way they're contributing by giving you a week of professional leave. So you haven't got to take as unpaid leave or your annual leave. They're giving you 1 week off as professional leave. So yeah, I'm very grateful to the management in the Royal Infirmary and the University Hospitals of Leicester to look at it in that way.
So they do show some level of commitment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and there's as I said, it's a big thing for them to say, okay, well we'll pay for your week while you're away.
So it's a partnership between the orthopedic surgeon, the hospital, even the Leicester University.
Yes, and also the supplier, as I said, there's a supplier called Medical Aid International who I said recycles equipment, and his commitment is about funding facilities in third world countries. So he builds and he equips theatre in Uganda, in Congo, and his passion is about seeing facilities improve in Africa.
So it would be interesting to meet him as well.
Sure.
In the program, and we've got his data up there on the screen, and it's quite an interesting organization.
Yeah.
And we shall study that more and talk to them as well, because again, it's wonderful. It's all a collective effort going on here, and he's supplying equipment all over Africa. It looks like some of the equipment here is from hospitals in Leicester.
Yeah,
and or anywhere in the country.
Yeah,
could be anywhere.
Being used in a decent way.
Definitely, I will get our one of our colleagues, Zafar Haq, involved, and we can arrange a meeting together collectively and talk more about this. And this is what it's all about, as I repeatedly say, is awareness, and keep reminding people to get involved. Sometimes we are saying that there are so many projects. So somebody who lives in Malawi, he'll be doing a project in Malawi because he has more passion for his country of birth.
Sure.
And likewise, there are projects all over the world going on, mainly in third world countries like in India, in Pakistan, and everybody's doing a project close to them in their village. And how it emanates is you go to visit your village in Pakistan, you see some atrocity there, or you see some poverty there,
or the discrepancy between your life and their life,
and it hits you.
Yeah, sure.
And you say, I want to do something about it.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, you are involved full time in this kind of work.
Yeah.
And Shakil, do you find that as well when you're traveling abroad? You see these things and they hit you in the heart?
No, of course. I mean, when I went to India, you see the amount of poverty in India. I mean, I haven't had the opportunity to go to Ethiopia as yet, but inshallah in the near future. But some of the pictures that Mr. Abraham has shared with us and other colleagues that have visited, you see the disease there, the abnormalities there. We concentrate on musculoskeletal injuries or orthopedic injuries, and the stuff that you see there, probably unheard of in the UK. And likewise, I'm sure you can that goes for other areas as well, in India, Pakistan, other third world countries, not only Ethiopia. But I mean, alhamdulillah, this is a project that we are running that is established, and that we're just looking to fund further, inshallah, in order to improve health and resources in at least one area. One thing I just want to emphasize, although we are here for the Leicester Orthopaedic Gondar project, Leicester do fund other, sources as well. For example, one of our consultants is quite active with the Syria project, a hand in hand for Syria. And as Leicester, we have raised money and raised awareness for his project as well. So it's not only this Gondar project that, which currently we're emphasizing and highlighting, but there are other projects that are also going in the background that are as equally important.
Yeah, I mean the only other point, Zedda, because I know your time's running out, but this is a sustainable project. The best projects are when people in other countries are empowered, when you train people. We haven't talked about that, but that's a really important part of our project, is that we are training doctors out there. When we go, it's not that we just fly in and do lots of fancy surgery. We train people to do that, so that instead of us doing 1 or 2 operations, they will be able to do hundreds, if not thousands, of the same type of operation.
So you are, by doing what you are putting preventive measures in place. Now, before we close the program, I want you to just read that message there. Zara Ahmed, are you making the project aware? Can you finish that, please?
Yes. So we have got several kind of publicity events. We've had several dinners. We've had a few events. So we are trying to get these this kind of project as widely publicised as possible
amongst the
Ethiopian
population.
Amongst the Ethiopian population here, yeah. There's a small Ethiopian population here, but there's a bigger Ethiopian population in London. So yes, we have a few links with them, which we're trying to build on.
Yeah, of course, we have a huge diversity in the city of Leicester right now, and it's always a challenge for everybody in the community to deal with this diversity. So it's been an absolute pleasure to meet both of you gentlemen, kind gentlemen, who've taken your time out today on a day of sleep, bank holiday, to come to the studio. So we're going to join you shortly after the break, and we shall talk some more with some other projects at Radio Ramadan.
Thank you very much.
Jazakallah.